Hello, hello. I was so lost in that music. Good job, my friend. Again, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another episode of End of Season Reports. My name is Crunk Chocolate, and this is part of Shades of Blues content season, streaming live from Manifest. Shout out to everyone also on our Patreon for watching this with us. It is the off season, which means we can all relax a little bit on the tribalism. Here I am, some of my favorite people about the clubs in the Premier League or Women's Super League. But today we talk Tottenham men. Oh my goodness. European champions? You'll never say that, huh?
Oh, that's so good.
No question.
Oh man, I am actually super excited to talk with them. Tottenham, now that we've won the Champions League, like before we won the Champions League, I kind of had like a slight little bit of hate in my heart when it came to anything when it came to Tottenham. There have been multiple times between you / VAR has like destroyed our Champions League dreams. But we're here now. So I can be happy for your European success. And I'm just very excited to talk with Tottenham Depot Podcast here with our good friends, Andrew, Scott. How's it going? How are you feeling?
We're feeling good, man. Like you said, European champions. How can't you feel good?
Hey.
I never thought that we'd actually get to this point in time. I always had
Look at us, a group of European champions just hanging out, talking about winning trophies.
It's funny you bring that up about the UCL. I still remember when VAR called that Sterling goal offside. This was probably 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
2019.
2019, yeah, obviously 2019.
And
I fell on the floor in the bar when I thought we had lost, and then VAR came in, and I found myself back up and grabbed a beer, and that's honestly, all jokes aside, that's like a key memory for me in my Tottenham fandom is that VAR call. So
of all the times you've fallen down in a bar, that's one of the more memorable ones. Is that what you mean to say?
This one was more acceptable than other times.
Oh my gosh. So there are a few moments of my life that I just maybe just for my own self-soothing and protection, I've just like blacked out of my brain. Is once that happened, the rest of that match, and then all of UWCL after KDB got taken out by Rudiger. The rest of that match, I'm just like, I legitimately cannot tell you what happened, and I try my hardest, and I've rewatched replays and been like, oh yeah, that's what's happened, and I'm still just like, nope. My brain immediately forgets it, just like protection, which I appreciate.
We've had a lot of those moments over the years, trust me.
Oh yes, for sure. For sure. Now that you've won the titles, there's no Spursy way. Like Spursy is, in theory, it's out of the way,
It's dead.
100%.
It's officially out of there.
Man, and I'm super excited to talk about the manager, Big Ange. Like I know there's transition going on with the team and where you've landed, and because where you've won, you're in champions. Like I'm actually super excited to chat with you guys because I can it's always easy to assume like what's going to go on with Tottenham after like years of Tottenham, but with this change and people who are people who are tapped in with what's going on and talk about what's going on at Tottenham, it can help me, point me in the right direction so I don't continue to push, the dribble, the hate that I may hear from other clubs who very much want to kind of like laugh and hate at everything that you all do, honestly. But let's start with the kids. This is a little. We start off with something a little fun, a little light. Uh, the way that this works, everybody who is listening and watching, maybe for the first time, we will grade 5 categories. We start off with kits, manager, squad, the supporter, the fan base, and front office. American style grading, F, D, C, B, A. And if you want to, you can do pluses or minuses. You know, sometimes we live in the gray, and that's what those are for. Let's go for it. So back to the kits. We'll start with the home. I will give quick my opinion on it. There are like historic kits, and lots of teams have like historic home kits where they have to have these things in them. So it just makes it really tough to make something like fun, original, exciting, and things like that. So this home kit, it's like, it's whatever. But obviously, this is me from the outside looking in. Maybe there's some intricacies that you both may see or like, or things like that. So I don't want to poo-poo on your parade. But it's a very underwhelming kit. What are your thoughts? What is your grades?
Yeah, man, I would start out by saying anytime you win something in a kit, it becomes a little bit more iconic and a little bit more meaningful. So that's the only thing that's really going to pull me to this home kit. The problem I've had with our home kit, and I think I've said this on this very show in the past, is that it's got red on it, which we don't like, obviously. Sponsorship. That's kind of the only It's kind of the only downside of our home kits over the years. Otherwise, like you said, it's a perfectly fine kit, but we're gonna enjoy that we were able to hoist a trophy wearing it. So that's gonna add to the value of it, obviously.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I don't get into the never red of it all as much as most Tottenham fans, and that's just because I'm a fan of a swarm of teams that wear red. Big Iowa State fan, big Indiana Fever fan. So
Iowa State?
Yeah, went to Iowa State. So yeah, super random, but yeah, red is all in my closet, right? But I don't love the red on the home kit either. We do get paid well to wear that AIA. You know, they're a Malaysian company. Red's extremely important to them as a company. It's distributed to their culture and all of that. So I understand it. They do pay us well. We turn around and spend that money on like Tanguy and Ndombele and Gio Lo Celso. So we got to get all that figured out. But I appreciate the dollars that have came from the red on the kit. But like Andrew, not a fan. I'd give it a B. It's probably a C for me, but we won a European Cup in it, so I'll bump it up to a B. But for me, and call me old school, call me, you know, whatever euphemism we want to throw out there. But I just like a plain white home kit. That's the Spurs way. Make it look like a white tee with a badge on it. I don't really care, but the things just get a little too fancy, and maybe Nike tries a little bit too hard for me. I don't love it, but like I said, we won the Europa League in it, so I'll throw a B on it.
So I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, so I'm very familiar with Iowa. Our area is more like the Hawkeyes, but on TV a lot. Well, I don't want to say a lot, but whenever football would, like the Premier League would randomly play on just random Saturdays after like cartoons and stuff. And I remember growing up, and the two teams that would play a lot was Crystal Palace and Tottenham. And I have friends who are from this general area, and they grew up and they are either Crystal Palace or Tottenham fans. So obviously that marketing worked from those clubs. It did not work on me. The white Tottenham fans or the white Tottenham kits stressed me out. If we're being honest, like it's just like, how are you playing football and mud and grass and stuff, and you're wearing white kits? I don't get it. And then Crystal Palace, they're just Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace. Why I couldn't become a fan of them. But I grew up being pretty comfortable with those two clubs. So I don't hate them maybe as much as, actually it's not as much as I should, because I shouldn't feel really, other than, you know, the troublesome moments that we've had facing Tottenham, the Tottenham curse and things like that. But just my heart there are other teams that I hate. They're the Liverpools, they're the Arsenals. Honestly, personally, I don't like Wolves. I think they're just a waste of a Premier League space. There's Luton Town. We're jigging on our pitch when they relegated us back in like 85 or 86 or something like that. That's like a historic thing. So like there are, I won't say better reasons, but I have my own particular reasons why I hate, and Tottenham really doesn't get any of that.
Refreshing.
I know. Oh man, oddly enough, I chatted with a buddy of mine who is an Arsenal fan, but we were talking Arsenal women, and he was just kind of explaining what it's like to be an Arsenal fan, and I'm in a group chat with him, so you really did kind of make him seem like he was just like, Chelsea, Man City, he named all the fans that are in the group chat, and he was like, and it's just two of us Arsenal fans just constantly getting berated, and we fucking just like from the top rope talk shit about them constantly.
A lot of material there.
Yes, I mean you get it, but for a split second I was like, oh, I do understand. That would suck. But then I realized it was Arsenal that I was talking about. I was like, get the fuck over it.
I saw a wonderful meme recently of it was Glasner, Ange Postecoglou, the Chelsea manager whose name escapes me at the moment, Enzo Maresca, and then Arne Slot all holding their trophies, and then Arteta was holding just a plastic water bottle with the crew. And it's funny, man. I know we're not here to talk about Arsenal, but we've been called we've been called Spursy, we've been called the bottlers for so long, but Arsenal bottles much more than we've ever bottled, and they've never won a European title. So
I know Arsenal more as bottlers than you guys are. I mean,
appreciate that.
It's one of those things. Tottenham are known as like the lovable loser types, where like you lose, it's awkward, but it's almost like an inevitable. And your fan base are just like, where Arsenal, they're just like, we're gonna win it every year. No, fuck whatever you're saying. They're like New York Knicks fans for basketball,
right?
Like,
whereas when we get to talk about manager and everything going forward, you'll hear some of us, and we're just like, I don't know where this is going from here. Like yeah, we did just hoist a trophy for the first time in 17 years, and the first time in Europe in 41 years. But
be a good place.
And you would think this thing would be kicking on, but here we are, and we're like, who's going to be the manager of the club?
Who's going to be the manager?
Look like? What are we? Who's going to be on the team next year? It's very much up in the air.
I'm super excited. Perfect.
Kind of the Tottenham mindset, if you will.
Yeah, and perfect transition into our next category. Oh, we did that already. My bad. Boom, there we go. Manager. Okay, so I know we'll get to what I guess the search and how the search is going, but this is about the 24-25 season. And Ange Postecoglou, the Aussie great, who said, hey, I win titles. I win a trophy. There's some sort of success in my second year. And just despite where you landed in the Premier League, you did lift a trophy, and he was able to keep up with his talks. I am interested in what grade you'll give him, because I think we're gonna have to kind of talk the situation out. And I guess I could also go to the squad category as well, as to some of the trials and tribulations of this year. But thoughts on Ange, how he did, and what grade would you give him?
Yeah,
go ahead.
This is a very loaded question, because it's been a crazy season. I'll tell you, in our season preview pod, Andrew and I had a thorough discussion. Would you take 17th place, because you're not relegated, but would you take 17th place and the Europa League trophy, and we said, "Oh fuck yeah!" Immediately, so we threw it down and said we would take that right now. And this is
We
the
just
season
didn't think that would come true.
Yeah, like,
That's
never
fair.
in a million years did I think we'd actually finish 17th. I knew there was a chance we could win the Europa League, and that I hate saying this, I shouldn't say it, but you look at the field this year, and without Champions League dropping down, it is like just slightly watered down. And I hate saying that, but that's just the long and the short of it, right? And so bookies had us as the favorites to win the competition. Vegas did, right? So we both knew that there was a chance. We never thought in a million years we'd finish 17th place, right? But it happened, and we lifted the trophy. But I give him a B. I'm going to go with a B again. I think to get an A, we need a better league finish, and maybe top 10 in the Europa League. I could start thinking about an A, but I think I got to throw a B his way. And part of me wants to say C, but he won us our first European Cup in 40 years, and honestly got a big monkey off of our back, right? That we needed to win that trophy. And he did something that Conte didn't get done, that Mourinho didn't get done, that Pochettino didn't get done. Some heavy hitters, right? So I got to give him a B.
Yeah, I went C plus, and kind of for a lot of the same reasons that you did, Scott. And it's weird because we'll get to talk about it a little bit more when we talk about both the front office and the squad. But the manager being there and being the one that impacts literally everything that goes on the pitch, it obviously weighed a lot for me. And I think when you talk about the connection between all of these things, that's where it's really important to me. I mean, a lot of quotes came out in the aftermath and even leading up to the Europa League final from Ange, talking about the fact that, once they kind of realized that this was the competition that they were going to have a chance to win this season and that they weren't going to get relegated, he, for lack of a better term, threw everything else out the window and just focused on the Europa League. And there were some more quotes that came out this week saying that how many in the club didn't understand that philosophy and didn't quite agree with it or get it. And that, to me, speaks to just a lack of cohesiveness within the whole club and kind of knowing what we're doing. But for the manager himself to make that bold statement and to make that proclamation and say, no, this is the only thing we have right now to focus on. And as long as I know that we're going to, still have Premier League football to look forward to next season, we're going to go all out for this thing. I think that's really bold. And he obviously backed it up. Now, had he lost what can be described by a neutral as a very boring 1-0 final, like had that gone the other way, things would be looking very differently now. But he didn't. They won that 1-0 final and got all the glory for it, which, the Tottenham way is that the game is about glory, and that's what they went for. I think the other thing that needs to be said, though, too, about Postecoglou is, one of the big critiques of him over really his first two seasons is a lack of adaptability, a lack of willingness to change things. Number one, that's something that we really saw in the Europa League. I mean, he did a lot of different things, especially against Bodo Glimt in the semifinal. He did some different things against Frankfurt in, I believe that was the quarter of the round of 16. So like there were a lot of different adaptable changes that he was able to make in a cup situation. Now we just want to see that translated to the Premier League, because you can't go full bore and play that quote unquote Ange ball every single week in the Premier League, especially when you've got other competitions to worry about as well. That's how you end up running your players into the ground. And when you don't have a built out squad and a deep squad, that's the kind of adaptability I want to see from Ange Postecoglou going forward, if indeed he is going to be the manager going forward, which to this point we still somehow don't know, which is I think the weirdest part of this whole conversation.
Yeah, that's fair. I love the part of the final to be described from neutrals as boring. That was hilarious.
I mean, it wasn't boring for me. My team lifted a trophy, but
because you're locked into the match. So like, you're locked into every situation.
I'm a little bit of a bored by that one.
Okay,
until Mickey Van de Ven's heroics, of course.
What about people who? I mean, can you at least understand where it felt a little like scrappy?
Oh yeah, it was scrappy, but I think that's the thing. We haven't seen this team get scrappy this year. They've just gotten their faces kicked in. So for them to get scrappy down the stretch in the Europa League, I mean, they had to get scrappy against Bodo and against Frankfurt as well. Like they had to get scrappy in some of these matches and play a little bit differently. You know, they weren't just trying to press down on the gas pedal and score as many goals as possible and hell with defending. Like they had to do some different things, and I think that's the kind of adaptability that needs to be translated to a full 38 game season throughout you know the 8 months that the Premier League is played. Like that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about Ange throughout, you know, the past month or whatever, since we lifted the cup or a couple weeks or whatever it's been, but also
It's all been a blur.
Yeah, I have no idea how long it's been, but it's been a blur. But not only this recent time, but his 2 years, his entire tenure as a manager, you know, in a professional capacity. If you look back in the history of Ange, he's all about taking massive risk. I mean, if we look in the micro, throwing the Premier League to the side in January and saying, look, I'm throwing all my eggs in the Europa League basket, that's a risk in itself. Bodo Glimt, we hold 32% possession in both of those matches, which is just an absolute black and white situation versus how we typically play football, right? In the final, he doesn't start Heung-min Son. That's a huge risk. He brings on Kevin Danzo in the 72nd minute to put up a wall as a third center back. And I'll be honest, as a Spurs fan, part of me worried that was a little bit too early to block up and set up shop and let United just come wave after wave, which they did, right? But he took a bunch of risk, and it paid off just handsomely. And I think there was so much pressure on the dude, not only in terms of, again, the micro and how important that trophy was for Spurs, but I argue his career, because I think if he loses that game, if he doesn't walk away from a trophy and finish the 17th place, look, from game 11 in the first season through right now, it has been abysmal in the Premier League. We've had a few good matches here and there, but honestly, what's 38 times 2? 76. So you can say like 65 of 76 matches have been just, there's been a poor run, right? There's been good matches sprinkled in there, but there's never been a cohesive consecutive run of form at all in the Premier League. So if he doesn't win that trophy, I don't know how quickly he bounces back. Hypothetically, maybe Portugal, maybe the Netherlands, maybe Greece. I don't know what happens to the dude, right? But I don't think it looks good. And winning that trophy completely flips the narrative. He's probably going to be at Spurs next season, going to have a chance to continue to build. But the pressure that dude was under, was immense. Just
you absolutely see it on his face.
Yeah, for sure.
I fell for him, man. I really was rooting for Big Ange, which Vincent Kompany, obviously his City ties. I root for him, but he's with Bayern, and I'm just like, oh, I don't like this, but I want him to be happy. And you know, Big Ange just going through it. I love his personality. I love his first year and how he was just basically knocking down all of these like English media bullshit and stereotypes and things, where he was just like, look, this is how you guys see it. It's not how most people see it. I'm just going to let you know. But I get it. You know, you're the Premier League, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just really love that he didn't take any shit from anybody. So
well, let me add to that real quick before we move on from the manager too, because that's been the other really refreshing thing with Postecoglou. What you just said there is the way that he kind of doesn't take any bullshit from English media. Like he's going to say what is on his mind, and he's not going to do it in a way, at least for the most part, where it's condescending, like it was with, I'll just say, with previous managers that we might have had. And it's also mostly like if he's throwing a player under the bus for something, then that player probably deserved to be thrown under the bus. You know, we had some incidents with certain players this season that were pretty unsavory, and they got their tongue lashing when required. But for the most part, he's taking blame himself for things that have gone wrong. He's not throwing players under the bus. He takes responsibility for a lot of different, 17th place. Like he does wear that. He's not blaming, the chairman or a player or officiating. Like he rolls with punches. And deals with the media a lot better than I think our other two much more experienced previous managers did.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add before we wrap up the Ange of it all is he's just a gritty dude. If you look back the span of his career, he starts at, I believe, Melbourne South, if I'm not mistaken. Does fairly well. Ends up coaching the Socceroos U21s or U17s. Sorry, U17s. Does well, but hits a bad run of form, gets sacked. He famously ends up on this national news coverage, not sports news, but just like let's say like your nightly CBS or something here in the States, right? And he's this famous interview. If anyone's interested, I highly recommend looking it up. And he gets into just like a verbal confrontation with the interviewer, and the interviewer says, "I think you should resign from your position." And Ange just blows up on the dude, ends up getting sacked 2 months later, right? So from the perspective of optics, that doesn't look good. He ends up going 2 years without a managerial role, ends up doing TV for a while. That's a tough place to be for anyone in their professional career, right? You get fired and you don't find a job for 2 years. Ends up taking a job in Greece. I can't remember who it's with. Does well enough, and then ends up just by chance at some event with the commissioner of the A-League and says, "I really want an opportunity to manage in Australia again." That's where he ends up with Brisbane Roar, implements this crazy style that he still plays today. Brisbane Roar wins the title. So that's amazing. And then he gets an opportunity to go back to Melbourne Victory, which is a massive club in Australia, wins the title again with Melbourne Victory. And at this point in time, he's seen as like the guy in Australia. That's when he takes a Socceroos job, leads them to a World Cup in Brazil. They don't get out of the group stage, but they beat the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, a big win. And then he wins the Asian Cup. And at that point, he's like the guy in Australia, but he resigns because he doesn't feel like he's able to take the team to the next level. So puts the team before himself, ends up in Japan, ends up in Scotland with Celtic, and the rest is history, right? But the dude he's been gritty throughout his entire career, and I think that very much showed throughout this season, last season as well, but very much in this season. And the last thing I'll say, it takes a pretty special person to take this Spurs job on the back of everything that we've been up against. We know that the backing hasn't always been, I mean, we spent money, right? But there's this idea that we don't back our managers well enough, and you're going to a club that never wins things, and you're trying to sign players who don't really want to go to a club that's tagged as not being able to win things, right? It's a tough job, and not only did he take it, but he kind of broke the hoodoo and the curse that's been attributed to Spurs. So just a really special dude.
Yeah, and I only just realized I completely blew through the kits. This was yesterday with Arsenal women. I honestly wanted to talk about Arteta. And I was just like, all right, let's talk about Arteta. And they were like, I thought we were doing Arsenal women. And even today, I was just so excited to talk about Ange. I was like, screw those kids. Who cares about them? So I do want to quickly get your guys' ratings for them. Home kit, Scott, what is a grade for your home kit?
I'm going with a B.
Okay.
And that's just because we won a trophy in it. Otherwise, I'd say C or D.
Yeah. And then Andrew?
Yeah, mine's the same. It's a B.
Okay. I like that. Keeping the B's alive. Oh, what about the way then?
F. It's awful.
Yeah, he didn't like the away kit this year. I didn't think it was too bad, but it's not great either. I gave it a C-.
Do you not like the thin stripes?
They mess with your eyes a little bit when you stare at it too long because it's not all like even stripes. It's like different patterns and stuff. So, but they wore them so rarely. You know, the home kit is the main kit and the one they wore most often this year, obviously. But they wore them so infrequently that it didn't really bother me all that much.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's like just the gradient's unnecessary. The badge in the center I thought was unnecessary. It just honestly looked like, and I'm a fan of centered badges, but this kid didn't look right. It just honestly looked like somebody sat down with a box of crayons and just got funky, and it didn't work for me. So
I love it. Okay, well, what about then the third kit, the green kit?
I like the third kit this year a lot. They did a little bit of real like specific Tottenham Easter eggs within that kit that were really special. I gave that one an A-.
Oh,
Yep. Myself as well, A-. I really liked it. The only thing that keeps it from a straight A is like the little mini folded over collar. I thought was just
that's fair.
kind of unnecessary, but
That's
really
Nike
strong
for you.
Yeah,
Nike's doing a lot of damage to the kits lately, in my opinion. But yeah.
agreed.
Okay. All right. Well, then, next topic. Squad. Okay. Oh man, and your squad. So there are a lot of players on this Tottenham squad that I actually very much enjoy, and I respect and I like. What I hear a lot from Tottenham fans is the season would have been a lot better. You wouldn't have been in 17th. Obviously, if you wouldn't have lost Romero, if you wouldn't have lost Van der Ven, and that's sort of tied to how Ange places players. So it's kind of this weird thing. Hopefully, I guess the second team, the super subs, the B team, the C team, that is added onto, so then you don't have to rely on them. Pedro Porro, an old City player, big fan of him. A lot of people are big fans of him when it comes to the City spectrum, except for he almost immediately, when Pep was hired, he was like, Pep sent me away immediately, never talked to me. I still to this day don't know why they got rid of me, and I kind of hate them for that. So I respect it, because if someone just immediately got rid of me and then also like had the success that they did, even without the success, it's always up. It's up and it's stuck. I kind of hate you guys forever. So I understand and I respect that. It hurts me a little bit because I do like what he can do offensively. Mickey Van der Ven, I hated on him for so long because he's the fastest guy in the league. He's so quick, blah, 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 blah. And I eventually was just like, yeah, no, dudes, he's the truth. And Christian Romero, when it comes to like set pieces, heading the ball, all of those things, like he gets himself in the situation. He always tries to help. He's always good for like a timely goal with a header and things like that. You kind of need those types of dudes. Yeah, I when it comes to me, it's always kind of like defense first. Heung-min Son, I actually am in the minority, I think, where I think the dude is an asshole and everything he does is fake as fuck and it's very planned and purposeful. And I respect it because, as a footballer, you got to kind of like control your image and practice it and everything. I don't trust him.
It's the first time I've heard that opinion for sure. But well, when it comes to the squad, look, man, these things kind of all tie together a little bit, but it's the way that the squad is utilized by Ange this past season for me that did the most damage to it. It's injuries and it's those things, but we talk about the way that Ange plays and runs these guys. And you mentioned the center backs. To me, that's where I like to start too, because I think that there are some numbers out there that would show you that when those two guys are both in the starting 11, Tottenham have a really damn good chance to win a game. And when one of them is missing, or God forbid both of them is missing, all hell kind of does break loose. But honestly, the rest of this squad is so it's set up in a way with a lot of youth and a lot of potential to be something. It's just a matter of kind of executing on that. And coming into last season, the club was really criticized for not setting Ange up in his second year with more like ready-made players, guys in their mid to late 20s who are ready to hit the ground running and just go, and instead brought in a lot more youth to the team, guys like Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, who proved to be really important to the club this season, but almost because they were forced to be because of injuries. So you didn't want to see so much youth pressed into such important duty throughout the year, and I think that's what shows a 17th place finish in the Premier League. That's why that happened. The squad was just stretched too thin by too many injuries and too many games, frankly, to handle. So it needs to be a deeper squad, but obviously that's not on the squad itself. That's on the people upstairs signing the checks. So overall, I give the squad a B- because they did do the thing, like they did lift the trophy. But they need some more out of certain guys going forward in order to actually like feel like they are a robust enough squad to compete both in the Premier League for 2 domestic cups and obviously for Europe, because Spurs, by virtue of winning the Europa League, are somehow miraculously going to be in the Champions League.
Yeah. We are ill prepared when it comes to the Champions League season. We have a lot of work to do, and I fear for what could happen if things aren't done correctly. I mean, look, we just finished 17th in the Premier League. Things have to improve, or we will get walked out of that competition pretty quickly. Now, as Andrew said, I believe it's like 72% win percentage when Romero and Van de Ven are both in the squad. Romero has played in 5 cup finals and won all 5 of them. The dude's just an immense big game player, a leader. I think he'll probably be our captain next year. I don't expect Son Heung-min to start every match, and I think Romero probably wears the armband. I could be way off on that, right? But we've got fantastic center backs. We've got fantastic fullbacks in Udogie and Porro, as you guys have already talked about. I think the midfield needs a little bit of work. I think we desperately need a number 6. The way that Ange plays, the 6 is probably the most important position on the pitch. And I believe in the Premier League, the 6 is the hardest position. Let me back up. The 6 in the Premier League is the hardest position in world football, in my opinion, right? It's such a physical and fast league that your 6 has to be astute, and we don't have that. And then up top, we need a little bit of work, but I think the bones are there. Like Andrew said, we made the mistake of buying too young, and that's on the board, and we're going to talk about that down the road, I do believe. So I'll save most of that for that conversation, where I think we've fallen short from the top. But ultimately, I think the squad is 3 or 4 key pieces away from being able to compete, and that's again a 6. We need a left center back. I think in Kevin Danzo, we've got an apt replacement for Romero if he were to go down, but we've got to have somebody to back up Van de Ven. I think we probably need another winger or 2 up top, right? It's more dynamic players who can find themselves in isolations, 1v1s, and actually take their man on. I look at a Brennan Johnson, fantastic finisher. He's really shrewd in the box, but he is not the type of winger who's going to be able to find himself in an isolation and win that 1v1 battle. It's just not his game, right? Son Heung-min is slowing down. We know that. I think we've got something with Odebear. We've got something with a potential Matthias Tell purchase, right? But again, we've got to have, somebody like Jeremy Doku. If you guys are interested in passing him our way, right, that'd be fantastic. But we need that type of winger. Yeah, and that will never happen, right? But point being, that's the type of profile the Spurs really need up top right now.
Oh man. Yeah, that'd be great. If there's one person on that squad that I legitimately would go to war for, it is Jeremy Doku, and I have on social media. It's half the reason why I don't even touch social media, because all the work that he does, and then he'll do a cross and there's no one there, and they'll be like, his fucking finishing product. And it's he literally took the ball on at half, dribbled through 2 people, brought in an extra 3 more, and because he couldn't just give a tap in to a striker who is Erling Haaland, who's supposed to also be the best striker in the world, it's now Jeremy Doku's fault. We're blaming Jeremy Doku. Honestly, oh my gosh, it makes me so mad how people get so pissed off about him. But then Savinho, who does the same thing, but everyone loves Savinho. Woo! If there's anything that gets me and our pod just all pissed off, we're just give Jeremy Doku more love. But also, similar to Nathan Ake with our team, he's been very clutch. Even Manuel Kanji, where they sit up to the club now in this present. But in the past, when we were successful, they were great. Obviously, time will change. Brandon Johnson, one of the most punchable faces. He's right under Bruno Fernandes at United. Like he's 2.
Everybody's under that guy in terms of punchable faces.
Yes, but Brandon, he's right up there.
I was only reminded of that during the final as how annoying that guy is to watch play.
Yes, yeah, and it sucks that he is United's like best player too. So it's like I want to hate on him, but whenever anything good happens on that squad, it's due to him.
Well, and it's
like,
funny too. I shouldn't have had to be reminded. We played them and beat them 4 times this season, so like it should have
say that.
It should have been fresh in my mind as to how annoying he is. But...
That half of Manchester is white. I hear you. Oh man. Oh crap. I guess I didn't write it down. Scott, what was your grade for the roster?
I'd say a C.
Okay.
I'd say a C. A lot of work to do. I think if we don't win a title this year, I say D or F, but
no, that's
the
fair.
trophy always gives you a little bit of a bump.
It really does. Which is why fans talk about over on the City Spectrum, fans talk about this season overall. Like, yeah. I mean, it is a failure. It really is a failure. And even if we would have beaten Crystal Palace for that FA Cup, it wouldn't have been a success. It would have been a less shitty season. It would have been a slightly more successful than the unsuccessful season it would have been. But like,
from the neutral perspective, like that run, what was it, like October to December? Yeah. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I soak tons of football content. That's like all I do is I sit and I watch football content, and I had to pick my jaw up off the floor every single morning in that run. I could not believe what I was seeing. And I'm not saying this is like in any sort of.
You're fine.
It blew me away. I sat there and asked myself, like, is this real? Like, are we sitting in a parallel universe right now? Just the loss after loss after loss. And obviously, mad respect to you guys for figuring it out. But it was something to see for sure from the neutrals perspective.
Yeah, from the first. Like all October to November, we were just like, yeah, we'll bounce back. Like after every match, we were like, yeah, we'll bounce back. But then once November hit, we definitely were just like, we'll see, bro. It is what it is. I was hosting live watch-alongs at a local bar, and like it eventually ended. It was because of the bar, but there were moments before that even ended, and I might have possibly like subconsciously ruined things. So I'm just like, I can't keep going in public, hanging out with like anywhere between 5 and 20 people showing up, and then they're all just laughing at me, bro. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not doing it. I know I'm supposed to be here hosting this event, but I don't like publicly getting laughed at like this. This is not fun. I don't care what money I'm making for anybody, even my podcast with the advertising, them for this stuff. I was just like, I don't like this. Can I just not come a weekend? Like, this is not great. I don't like this. I just want to be able to be miserable watching at home. And so once
best way to do it.
That December we got that win and that run, and it was still kind of inconsistent through January, but the way that we ended the season, I think it was like 11, it might have even been 14 straight unbeaten games between just wins and draws, and that is normally how we finish the season.
Yep.
Usually it's a little bit earlier. We go on runs of like 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, but it still was being able to end the season well. We got Champions League. That was all that mattered, because I truly was so worried about that. Supporters, Tottenham's fan base. We talked about it earlier. Just so used to being the Spursies, changed the phrase. We don't want to be called Tottenham anymore. We're Spurs. Just call us Spurs. And I think that was even in its own attempt to kind of pivot away from the usual, how people see the club and things like that. How did the fan base do this year, especially with the downs, the lows of the Premier League to the highs of Europa football? How did the fan base handle it? What is your ratings? Scott, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I will say that the fan base acted really how it always acts. I don't think there was much much differentiation. And for that reason, I'm going to give them a B. I keep throwing B's at things, right? But I give them a B because they acted as if as they always do and as we expect them to. For most of the season, as you can imagine, it was just rabid dogs, just everyone fighting everybody. You had probably 7 in 10 that were ready to part ways with Ange Postecoglou, 3 in 10 that were standing on the hill planting their flag and ready to go to battle for the guy, right? But everyone was super upset. Everyone was angry. And then we win the trophy, and Ange is the best thing to ever happen. Everybody's still super angry with each other for all kinds of different reasons, right? But ultimately, just a super standard performance from the Spurs fans over the past season for sure.
Yeah, I went with a C-. I'm a little harsher on our supporters in general, and maybe that's the pragmatist in me, because I guess my expectations at times are just a little bit lower. And honestly, like the trophy winning season being what it was, it's so unique that it's such a hard grade to put on any of this, because we were all just so much involved in like riding this roller coaster throughout the season. Like, yeah, we know this, the lows are the lows, and the lows are the Premier League games every week, but then we get the highs of trying to go do this thing that we haven't done in so long. And you could feel that throughout the fan base, throughout the entire season. You could feel that roller coaster ride. And honestly, for a lot of our fans, I think roller coasters make them throw up. And that's what it felt like a lot. Like, if it felt like a lot of people just wanting to throw up, or just voluntarily throwing up. A lot of people throwing up on themselves, deciding how they feel about Ange throughout the entire season. A lot of flip-flopping going on. And those people know who they are. Like, they know that they were completely Ange out, and then once he won, they were back in completely. And now that, there are rumors that the club is thinking about moving on from Ange still, they're completely back to being Ange out and wanting someone like Thomas Frank and just settling for that. So our supporters are a fickle bunch, but I'm hoping that some perspective can be seen going forward now that a trophy has been unlocked and won, and people can take a deep breath a little bit. I think that had a lot of weight on it, for not just for the club and for Postecoglou and for the players. I think for this group of supporters, that whole mantra of not having won anything, which of course is not true. Tottenham are one of the more decorated sides in English football history, but for having been 17 years since the last trophy, now that that's over, I'm hoping that folks can take a step back and be a little bit more, sensible about Tottenham's place in the greater football landscape. But I'm not going to hold my breath either.
That's fair. I mean, now that you have lifted something, we definitely have other clubs that we can make fun of. And so I get that. I'm
almost talking too, though, about like the self-defeating aspects, like, because there's a lot of that within the
in-house. Yes, that's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
That's got to get out. You got to have a little bit more of a. I'm not saying you have to puff your chest all the time, but like, this is a proud club. It has won many things, and now that it's won
love
something
yourselves, Tottenham fans.
Let's start acting like a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, in our Depot group chat last week, I think somebody had asked the question, who's going to be making the footballing decisions next year in terms of the manager, and I've made the comment, I'm not sure anyone's ever been making football decisions at this club since I've been a fan. And then I had to back up and say, shit, I don't think I can be self-deprecating anymore. Like, this is going to
maybe not as self-deprecating.
Yeah, like, I think I have to respect my club a little bit, which is a whole new world for me. And Andrew knows this. I've been quite apathetic to Spurs really since the Pochettino days. And I remember when y'all beat us in the Carabao Cup final 21, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Ruben Dias, late header, right? I think it was Dias. Might have been Laporte. But anyways, after that match, we got on a pod and I said, look, this was it. Like, I'm so upset right now because this was our chance to win a trophy, and I think it's going to get real rough for the next 5 years after this moment, right? We had just sacked Mourinho a week before that final, gave Mason the reins. I love Mason, no disrespect to him, right? But it just felt like things were going to get pretty shitty. And I'm still coming out of that apathy right now. I think when the final whistle blew on the 21st of May, and I just kind of stood in my living room and I was kind of in shock, maybe not quite in shock, but just didn't fully understand how to feel or what to make of it, right? Because I'm still pulling myself out of that apathy that's been the last 5 years. So yeah, bit of a rant, but it's a whole new world for us as Spurs fans right now for sure.
I'm happy for you both. I messed up and I did not get your grades. So what were your grades again?
You're good. I was a B.
And I went C-.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Last but not least, this is what I'm second most interested in after Ange is the front office, because this is a huge conversation about Tottenham often because of the fact that they have spent so much money on the shiny new stadium, that they have welcomed and allowed in everyone. They got space for F1, they got space for NFL. If you want concerts, you can come the fuck here too. But I guess we play football as well.
Yeah.
How has the front office done this season? What is your grade? Obviously, give me your thoughts about this season, but are you at least hopeful in this summer, this transfer window, after some success in being in Champions League? Now you have this money. There are things that you can do with it. Is the hope there for Tottenham fans?
Boy, it can be. I mean, I think that's where we kind of sit right now. We don't really know. Look, the front office has really pissed me off because of a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Let's go back to this season, though. The choice to, as I mentioned earlier, bring in a much younger bit of transfer business to supply Ange with that kind of depth was a hell of a choice. And I think that's what really led to such a poor Premier League campaign. Now, Ange was able, I think, to navigate it enough to obviously win a cup, which is great. But the front office, I don't think, has set Ange up in the best of ways. I mean, Ange came in obviously with one of the best players, if not the best player in club history, walking right out the door as he walked into it. So and that's a hole that obviously you're not going to just be able to plug and play there. But throughout the squad, there are a myriad of issues that aren't cohesive with the way that they want to play under Ange. If they're gonna chop and change things, they need to have done it already, in my opinion. They're already doing so much different things within the front office, or expected to be doing different things this summer. They've brought in a new CEO, Vinay Venkatesham, who was previously at Arsenal, helped build out Arsenal's women's program very much. I think that's a positive move, because that's another part of this front office that we really think about is how are they making Spurs women and bringing them up to the level of where we think that they should be. But even specifically to the men, the recruiting structure has been in place now for a few seasons, and because it hasn't gone perfectly, there are already talks about bringing other people back by the name of Fabio Paratici, in a consulting role. There's just so much changing going on that you don't get that cohesiveness very often. When it comes to all the other extra stuff you mentioned too, that's another big issue I have. One of the concerts that they're hosting this summer is Chris Brown, which baffled me because I thought Chris Brown was in prison. They're not always making the right decisions in terms of marketing, PR, all of those kinds of things either. So that's frustrating to see. Overall, I give them a D- because I don't think that they've put this club in position fully to exceed in the way that it can with this new stadium that's now been cooking for 5+ years. I think there's much more that can and should be done. And a lot of it just comes down to, honestly, the chairman, Daniel Levy, leaving the football stuff to the football people, and that's not something that he's been capable of doing really during his entire tenure.
Yeah, well said. I give him a big old F. I think they've failed massively. I think the only good thing they've done in recent memory was not sack Ange halfway through the season. And not that I was even in favor of Ange at one point in time, right? But I think letting him ride out the Europa League is the only good thing they've done in a while. I look back to the Pochettino era when we didn't sign players for 3 consecutive windows, right? That was a massive failure on the club's part. That is what led to Pochettino sacking him, in my opinion. They scrambled and they signed Tanguy Ndombele and Gio Lo Celso and Ryan Sessegnon for $40 million. And so they started spending big on these players. And then they figured out quickly, I guess I don't want to say they figured anything out, but from their perspective, they said, look what happens when we spend money on these big players. So they determined the next course of action is to spend big on managers. They dropped $20 million on Mourinho, I think another $35 million or something on Conte, right? That doesn't work out. And then people start telling them, you need to be more like Brighton. You need to be more like these teams who buy young and maybe find gems, but maybe sell on. And they say, oh, yeah, we'll be like Brighton and we'll sign Archie Gray and we'll sign Lucas Bergvall and we'll sign Wilson Odegaard. Players who could be very good players. Don't get me wrong. Bergvall already is, in my opinion, but I think they've just kind of been chasing their tail for a long time, right? And for me, the main issue at our club, and Andrew's heard me say this a million times, is the wage structure. Until we change the wage structure and start paying adequate wages, we're never going to have the depth to compete on all fronts, because the only thing that's going to get somebody to go to City and not play is wages, right? Like we cannot attract talented depth because we don't even pay our first team more than $200,000 a week, right? I think our highest paid player is Sonny on $200K a week. It's just never going to cut it. I think it's actually 190. So until that wage structure breaks, we are going to continue to be depleted. We're going to continue to see injuries ravage our season. And Daniel Levy throws these performance-based incentives on top of wages and think that's going to do anything. But these are professional athletes, and you'll hear people say we've got the pull of London, we've got this wonderful stadium. People just want dollars, bro. That's we all know that money talks, right? And again, until that wage structure is broken, Tottenham's going to continue to maybe pull an FA Cup, maybe pull a Europa League, but we're really going to struggle in the Premier League until that changes.
Yeah, I mean, when you see the new stadium and things like that, the last thing I want to hear is, oh, you don't want to pay me 20, 30,000 more than I'm asking. And the fact we have some like players who are like 24 making 200,000 a week. It's not many because they definitely try to. Obviously, there's Holland on our squad, and between his weekly wage and his incentives and stuff like that, that goes kind of crazy. But there, most of the other players, they have a very sensible pace. There are actually a few players on the squad that I'm like, they make how much? Why are we not paying them more? It's kind of amazing.
Well, I'll tell you this. I actually just looked this up. So City have 16 players on their roster that make more than £100,000 a week. Do you want to? You guys want to take a guess at how many Spurs have? 5, and one of them was Timo Werner.
Insane. I mean,
so really 4, because we weren't paying all of that on Timo, but still, and Timo's not going to not. But there are 4. So there are 4 players currently on the roster making north of £100,000 a week, whereas City have 16 of them. Like that's.
I mean, I look at it. I think Romero's on like 150. He can make 300 anywhere else. I mean, Madrid, Atleti, City,
exactly.
Chelsea.
I've heard Madrid.
Right? He makes 150. Pedro Porro is on 70K a week. He's one of the best right backs in the Premier League. Like he could double his wages by going anywhere. And again, I got to stop myself because I really find a bone to pick here. But that
Romero would be the 13th highest paid player on City's roster.
Crazy.
At his current wages. And
that would be good business at City. Like if they signed him for that, I would be like, let's go.
But Scott's right. That really is like kind of the central part of it. Like we'll pay a transfer fee for a player, and it may not be the right player, but we'll do that. We'll go out and drop a big number on Dom Solanke, and that's not to say that he's not the right player. I think Dom Solanke's a very respectable striker. For where we're at, for what we need. I mean, they'll go drop those numbers on Tanguy and Ndombele and Gio Lo Celso and Dom Solanke and Brennan Johnson, like players that don't warrant that much attention. But then they're not gonna pay them, the weekly salary that these other clubs are, and that's what kind of just makes it really tough.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our top 10 signings all time, one is Solanke, which is problematic. And again, no disrespect to Dom Solanke, but that's problematic. 2 is Tanguy and Ndombele. 3 is Richarlison. 4 is Brendan Johnson. Like, tells you everything you need to know. Not only do we not pay wages, but we don't know how to buy properly. I'll give him Christian Romero at 5. I'll give him James Madison at 6. 7 is Davinson Sanchez, who plays in Turkey now. 8 is Archie Gray, who's a literal child. 9 is Pedro Porro, respectable, and then 10 is Mickey Van de Ven, big thumbs up. But then 11 through 15, you got Sissoko, Gio Lo Celso, Kulusevski, Bergwijn, and Roberto Soldado. So yeah, we have a long history of not only making the wrong buys, but not paying guys enough, and here we are.
Yep.
Wow.
But we're European champs.
Hey, exactly, and this really should be a catalyst for significant change at Tottenham. And I hope it does, because respectfully, I'm not worried about where City stand in things because of Tottenham, but I do like the idea of Tottenham making things difficult for Arsenal, for Chelsea.
That would be nice. Yep.
Possibly for Liverpool. I don't think they can keep this energy up and going, and so like it's going to be. The more positive playing, beautiful playing, balanced, successful clubs in the Premier League just means overall, as a fan who just likes to watch football, it's going to be fun to watch. And there's always talk about the top 6 cartel and things like that. It is nice to have certain teams successful in the league. Just based off name and history and things like that. And Tottenham are in that listing. So I really do hope the best for you guys until you start making things, I guess, hot for City. Then I hope the worst for you. But there's no need to get ahead of ourselves. Keep it peaceful for now. Thank you guys for coming on. Please plug yourselves. Let people know where they can find you and the things that you do. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, you can follow me at Astedka on socials. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. We're posting podcasts every week talking about Tottenham Hotspur, obviously, and just everything that goes on within the club, club politics. We'll be talking this week about some changes that are being made within the front office and just what the hell is going on with transfers. I mean, it's so weird that the transfer window is open this week for this week and a half before the Club World Cup, and nobody's really expecting much to be done, but we'll be covering it all. We'll be covering it all every week on the Tottenham Depot. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and you can find me at Scott G Bird, BYRD on all platforms: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. Appreciate the opportunity to come on. I'm a big fan of the show and really enjoyed the first time I came on, so I appreciate you. Also, Andrew, if you don't mind, may plug Danny and Digital.
Oh yeah.
Spurs. Yeah, so we have a unique partnership with Digital Spurs at the Tottenham Depot. Digital Spurs, a gentleman by the name of Danny, pumps out all kinds of super cool Spurs merchandise. This hat right here, I'm a big golfer. Andrew's a bigger golfer than me, right? We won't talk about what we shoot, but this is, the Titleist hat that says Tottenham, one of my favorite pieces I have from Danny. But he also does a lot of non-Spurs football-related stuff. There's some England stuff. There's some U.S. men's national team stuff out there. So whether or not you support Spurs, I highly recommend checking out the Tottenham the Tottenham Depot, but
we'll do that too. But yeah, Digital Spurs, digitalspurs.com.
Digital Spurs on all social media platforms, and everybody out there who supports football is gonna find something for them for sure. And Danny does really good work, but he's a better dude. So
Love that. Love that. Well, tomorrow we will be back talking about Nottingham Forest, if I can remember correctly. So, Shady Gang, Patronies, Fan Festers, hello, appreciate you once again. You know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang.